My name is Ann Sermons Gillis, and I am a member of Unity of Charleston. And today I want to welcome a member of Unity to be with us. And I think you really enjoy him. I can tell you that he is a veteran. I'm not going to tell you any more. We'll let him tell his story. Let's welcome Ron Alexander. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Reverend Ann.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, let's start at the very beginning. Where were you born?
I was born on Paradise Point. Sounds good. On a Marine base in north coast of North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so I know you live in the Charleston area now. What part of this area do you live in?
I'm James Island.
I live on James Island. Well, what brought you to the Charleston area?
Well, I've been coming here for many, many years because I sailed out of here, and I have a cousin that lives here, and other ancient relatives. So I've been coming to Charleston. I love the water, but mainly the VA hospital, the Veterans Hospital, is here, which is very important.
Well, so how long have you lived in Charleston?
Probably 10, 12 years now.
Okay. And are you married or single or widowed or?
I'm divorced. Yeah.
Divorced. Okay. Do you have any children?
I do not.
Okay. And are you retired now?
I guess I don't feel like I'm ever retired. I'm very busy.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of things, but maybe you're not employed by someone. But could you just tell us a little bit about your career before now?
Yeah. I started out here and became a clinical pathologist, non-MD. Started out here in 1966 and at the medical college, much smaller back then, and ended up running a laboratory and becoming a non-MD clinical pathologist, ASCP, and ran a laboratory in the Army and worked in laboratories for my first career.
What was your second career?
Second career, I sailed away. I became a sailing captain. I love sailing, and I became a career sailing licensed by the Coast Guard and taking marine biologist students all over the Bahamas and up in New England. I did that for about 12 years. That was my second career. And actually, I was escaping the U.S. because of my brother being killed in Vietnam. It was an escape for me to just sail away.
Well, it sounds like a pretty good escape. I know it's really tragic about your brother, yet it looks like you chose a career that many people would love to have. So that brought you to, after you did that, was that your last paid career?
No, I actually, I turned 40 years old while I was still sailing, and I was feeling very, I felt like I needed to do something more significant in my life. So I heard about this school in California, graduate school. It said it was holistic psychology and Antioch in downtown San Francisco. So I applied, and because I'd become a yoga teacher, they accepted me readily. Yeah.
And then I think you were in cahoots with Jerry Jampolsky. I know a lot of people would have read his book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. And somehow you worked with him or for him? Or?
Yeah, I was looking for an internship, and I was definitely looking for his. I loved his books. My brother being killed in Vietnam was a very significant part of my life. So I looked for working with life-threatened. And I went to him, and he asked me to start a young adult group because the children were didn't want to be with the teenagers. Teenagers didn't want to be the children. So I got a grant and started a young adult group, which was the best job in my life for about 2 or 3 years.
And as I remember, this was an at-risk.
Yeah, they all had something that was going to be fatal. Back then, HIV was considered fatal, back in the 80s, and cancer, things like that.
Well, you have done a lot of things. I think you mentioned to me one time that you had a store in Beaufort, how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, after I came back from in the turn of the century, I came back here to help my family out. They were going through a lot of problems, and I came back here and worked with them for a few years and helped them with some property and trying to help them with their lives. And then I retired. I felt like then I retired again up to, it was really hard. I went up, I fell in love with Beaufort when I was sailing, the wild horses and the beautiful water and the beautiful islands, out islands. And I went up there and started a store called the Golden Dolphin, which was a beautiful store. But I'll never do retail again.
I know. Well,
It was,
you have had quite the life. I know that you also have been struck many times with tragedy. You've had a glamorous life and a tragic life. You might want to mention a little bit about that if you don't mind.
the tragic life.
About your brothers.
Oh, well, yeah, it was, I think, okay, one of my favorite authors is Pat Conroy. And I had a life much like his. The father was a Marine and, sort of abusive, tried to make a man out of me too young. And so I really identified with Pat Conroy and got to know him and actually introduced him to about a book, Reading in California. And so if you just think of his life with his father and the hardships of having a Marine father, which I forgave my father for, because he was looking at me to be tough enough to make it in the world. I really believed he really thought I had to be tougher, and he was probably right.
So thinking about your brothers and what happened.
Oh yeah, well I was very against the war, and he wrote me letters. But he was flying a helicopter over there, and and meanwhile they got me into the Army. I tried to not go, but they took me in, and they were training me to be an officer, Marine infantry officer. And my brother wrote me and said, "Don't come over here as an officer." He was flying helicopters. He said, "Don't come over here. It's just you don't want to be over here." So I dropped out of officer training school and went up to, and they sent me to Alaska instead, in the coldest month in the history of Alaska. And this pathologist found out about my background up there in the medical college and everything, and he asked me to run a lab for him down in Anchorage, which I was very glad to get out of the infantry and go down to Anchorage and run that laboratory for him.
Yes, well, and the point that I was leading toward is just that I know that you've lost four brothers. And so with your upbringing and losing four brothers, then it's not surprising that you have reached out to help other people, since, when we help other people, we learn so much about ourselves and we help ourselves as well. So that brings me to the point of, how did you start your spiritual search?
Yeah, that was very young. I could see halos sometimes. And the main thing, I think, that my sense of wonder. We go to the beach for a week every summer, and I would look across that water and wonder what is across there, just what is there, and just gave that. I think that sense of wonder is the start of my spiritual journey. I just, really love the Native American name for God, the great mystery. So I love mysteries and wondering and adventure and trying to find out, looking for the truth.
So you were open-minded, and it sounds like you were very curious, and then you were filled with a sense of wonder. And so that took you many different directions, through losses, through different careers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what brought you to unity? How did you find unity?
Oh, yeah, that's very easy. It's it's the closest thing to learn try to know the truth. To me, it's the truth. To me, unity is full of people who want to know the truth and not be caught up in dogma. And the teachers are wonderful and open-minded, like yourself. And so it was easy I mean, I was in Unity up in Myrtle Beach area
Okay.
for a while, and then I came down here, and I was very happy being such a diverse church, um, being a wonderful meditative church. I really enjoy meditation, and Reverend Ed is quite a meditator. I still meditate with him, and I like the teamwork he has with Scotty now. I think that's a really good male and female, divine male and female teamwork, and I'm just really appreciating
Well,
their
so
teaching.
how did did you have a friend recommend it to you, or did you just look it up in the look
I,
it
I was I was a student of Byron Katie out in California, Byron Katie, and she loved to travel and go places where that she's needed. And I told her about Charleston, and she wanted to come to Charleston. I met her and I helped her come here, and we had an overflowing crowd. And I mean, it was a really easy choice to try to spread the word. But I love Byron Katie and her teaching, and to get her here, and her teaching still reverberates here very well. Actually came back another time.
and so that's how you found Unity, is that you had it housed at Unity?
Well, no, that's not how I found it. It's just, I mean, I was looking for unity. I mean, I've always looked for unity. I mean, wherever I am, looking for unity. Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I agree. Well, I certainly know that Byron Katie is an amazing person. I love her
Yeah.
book, A Thousand Names for Joy. I've got it bookmarked and tagged and underlined, and it's practically worn out. It's such an amazing book. So you
Yeah,
were looking for unity, and we're so glad that you did find unity.
I am too. Yeah.
And so you've mentioned, I'm sure you like Byron Katie's books. Do you have any other favorite authors that you might speak of, or books?
Yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh, and also my first Course in Miracles teacher, Bill Thetford, Dr. Bill Thetford, who was the co-scribe, and he got this book called Never Forget. It's not his book, but Never Forget the Life. And he was one of my favorite. Yogananda, Thich Nhat Hanh, Ram Dass. I've been with all of them at one time or another, and love their teaching. I could probably name a bunch more, but
They are
anyway, I got a bunch of these.
all
Books.
quite amazing, quite
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I think you've mentioned this before, but we'll go over it again. And that is, do you have any passions or hobbies?
Yeah, I love creativity, and I love going to the beach and walking there, especially for sunset. And nearby, I live halfway between the VA and the beach, Folly Beach, and I've been going out there several times a week for the sunset. You walk; it's kind of a wild place. You walk all the way out to the river, the inlet, and it's pretty wild out there. I love it. There's usually not many people out there, and I love photography, and I love doing working on my art, my folk art, and I
Oh,
just
you're a painter as well, then?
no, I'm not a painter.
I mean, art. I mean, an artist.
I'm more of a collage. I'm mixed media, but I love art, and I don't know what folk art is what it's called. I call it sea folk art. So a lot of nautical scenes, a lot of tropical stuff, and um, the other way.
Is that
But
behind you? Is that behind you? Is that some of your work behind you?
most of it is I had a book I called Sailing and Swim with Dolphins last century, and it was about sailing around and finding the golden rule all around the world. And it's golden dolphin and my golden dog, beautiful, wonderful golden dog, Honey, uh, and it's um, I got to tell a lot of stories about it, including this Piccolo Spoleto Festival. And I want to do another book on Honey. She was the best dog therapist I've ever been around, and that was last century when there were no dog therapy, no licensed therapists. But she helped me out with the young adults, and she was just amazing. She's a much better counselor than myself.
Oh my. we'll move on from that topic. And do you participate in any spiritual practices? You've mentioned meditation and you've mentioned walking on the beach, which is being in nature. Is there anything else that you do?
Well, I'm a Buddhist student, definitely studying Buddhist at the local Sangha, and getting a lot out of that, including going around with, I love the teachers out there and the other students. It's just, to me, it's just another form of unity from what I see, another form of being unified with other people, feeling at one with other people. So I love, I kind of like the mixture of the living Buddha and the living Christ. I really think that the inner living one can be called the Buddha or the inner Christ.
Yes. God source is dynamic, and that is what living is. Is it something that moves? It moves. It's not static. It's not dead. It's creative and alive. That's wonderful. Well, I wonder if you have anything else that you'd like to leave us with, any kind of thought or advice or.
Yeah, well, I think probably the most important thing I've done my whole life, being abused young, is learning how to love myself, loving, and doing all kind of, which includes, all the spiritual teaching. And so I think that's probably the most important thing. And also my mantra is getting old is the older I get, the more beautiful life becomes.
Wow, I
So,
love that. The older I get, the more beautiful life becomes.
yeah, that was from the famous architect, Wright.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah, Frank Lloyd Wright said that in his age. But to me, that helps keep me going, and I really think that spirituality, as I losing my, I can't think as well as I used to. So and I think spirituality is more important than the intellect, which soothes me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to have the
Yeah.
intellect, but it's best as the servant of the heart, not as the leader or director of the heart. So,
Thank
Ron,
you.
I want to thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, and we'll see you in church.
I'm so grateful to all of you and all of you, the unity in the Buddhism. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks. Namaste.
Namaste.